Well, hello, Center of Hope members and all in viewers. I am so blessed and excited to be here with you all today. I am Jontil Gerard-Daggs, a member of Center of Hope and a member of PLAN4Hope, our social justice ministry. I will be your host for today's event, and let me just say that our voices matter, and therefore our votes matter. And that's what we're here for today. The goal of the forum is to highlight some of the measures and propositions that will be on the upcoming ballot, as well as provide insight and educational resources. In doing this, we believe that our community will become more engaged and equipped with tools to make informed decisions this upcoming election, as well as those to come. We want to encourage our congregations and communities to make a commitment to show up to the polls with more knowledge of how our votes make a difference. In doing so, this is one step closer towards developing a continual action-based, all-in attitude towards positive change. So it is time for us to be accountable, and it is our hope that today's forum can assist us with heading in the right direction. Also today, we would like for you all to go to our PLAN4Hope coh.org website. On our website, you will find a link with an all-in voter pledge card. We are asking that you fill this out, not just for us to be able to connect with you after the forum, but as a personal pledge to cast your ballot this upcoming November, and to make sure that you do your part in helping others in your families, communities, and network to do the same. So after today's initial broadcast, viewers will be able to rewatch and share with others, and there will be a real-time Zoom post-forum in which viewers can sign on for a Q&A with available speakers. So let's go ahead and get this party started. And what better way than with a message from our own Pastor and First Lady, Jeremy and Adrian Dixon.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, y'all.
How are you guys?
We're good.
My head is shining, but we're doing all right.
Hey, whatever it takes, gotta show up.
Right.
Well, good morning, everybody. We are so excited to be a part of PLAN4Hope's ballot form initiative. It is so important that we stay engaged, not just this election season, but every election season, everything that is happening in our municipalities, all the way up through, our national government. We have to stay engaged. We're seeing over and over again now how so much is going on in our society, in our country, and it is our desire to just continue to put forth information to help our congregation, to help our community, to feel empowered, to know what's going on so that we can effect positive change.
Yeah, it was just a little under 4 years ago when after a sermon I preached called "Now More Than Ever," we put together just a conversation that ended up being these incredible women who lead out PLAN4Hope, and Hazar Price, Sister Mose, April Mosby, Sister Maya. There might be one more. I think it was a fourth lady. I'm skipping my mind right now. But these individuals ultimately began to strategize around this big idea that what if we could create a space that helped to inform our population and all those we had access to for the purpose of engaging actively in the systems that we found that need modification and need reform and need to be changed. It's one thing to shake your finger and to shake your head and to have all of these private conversations about what you feel like is being mismanaged or malfunctioning. Is something altogether different to get up under the burden, to carry the mantle, and to find ways to actively engage. And I'm so proud of PLAN4Hope and what it has done. And this is another example of us finding ways to actively engage our population, to inform them about ways in which they can actively see to the things that we talk about privately. So PLAN4Hope, I love the name. The name is, look, we have hope. We got a strategy for it too. And hope is not wishing. Hope is not sitting back, laying back, thinking that one day in the sweet by and by is going to be better. That's not hope. Hope is a picture of the future. And our picture of the future is a God-ordained picture. And then we plan accordingly. By faith, we walk toward what we believe that God has called, our country and our world, to operate in. So I'm so glad that you all are here, because what you're saying with your presence is that you want to be a part of the plan for hope. You want to see things change in the culture. You want to see systems reflect God's ideas concerning humanity. And so you're ready to be informed, engaged, and we got some great folk today who are going to give you all kind of information about how you can be actively and accurately informed about what, how we ought to approach this conversation. So thanks for joining us. Thank you to Sister John Till and so many others who are part of this, Sister Adrian and all her work with this. And I'm excited for the day. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys for being such great leaders and examples, not just to the church, but to the community. Not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And then also just providing a platform where the different ministries and organizations have a place to reach out to the people. So we just thank you for that. And we're excited for what's to come today. So thank you guys again. So that was our pastor and first lady. Amazing. And we're going to get this started. Our next guest speaker, well, I don't know if I can call her a guest, because our next guest speaker is our very own Plan for Hope member. I should say one of our leaders, because she, as well as a couple other ladies, have started this ministry and have been putting in the work. And I cannot wait for you all to meet Miss April Mosby. Hello, April.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, John Teal. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you well. And you look beautiful, girl.
Oh.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to hear about Plan for Hope and what's to come.
Great. Well, greetings, everyone. On behalf of Center of Hope's Plan for Hope team, that is the Policy, Legislation, Action Network for Hope. As mentioned, this group was formed in 2016 in response to a call by our own Pastor Jeremy Dixon. After that November election, it was made clear that we could not sit idly by and watch the governmental policies, both nationally and locally, wreak havoc in our most underrepresented communities. We all needed to become more engaged in civic and political action. The ultimate goal for Plan for Hope is to educate our congregation and the broader community about current political issues, as well as to provide opportunities to connect with local organizations that are doing a phenomenal job in addressing some of our most serious social challenges. Some of these organizations you will hear from today. Plan for Hope's primary mode of connecting with you, with what you need to begin the engagement process, is through our Plan for Hope website. It is here that you will find current information about all things related to civic engagement, educational information, employment opportunities, housing support, health-related initiatives, and criminal justice reform. In this season, it is our hope that you will join us by volunteering for activities related to voter engagement, such as our upcoming phone banking. Again, you can find out more details about this event, as well as others, from our website listed below. If you are tuned in and participating in today's event, we thank you for your initiative, and we pray that what you hear will be shared within your own spheres of influence to help bridge that gap between what we know and what we can do. Plan for Hope is all in, and we invite you to be all in too. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of this presentation.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, April. That was amazing. I am excited to be a part of your team and all the work that we have to come. Viewers, I really, really need you guys to go to that website. It is PLAN4HopeCoH.org. Okay, we want you to go there so you can continue to connect, tune in for all the wonderful, informative, and engaging opportunities Plan for Hope has coming up, leading to this election, but also just to continue to stay engaged afterwards. So thank you so much, April. Our next guest is an amazing, amazing member also of Plan for Hope. Her name is Miss Maya Walker. Hi, Maya. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. Now, I know we are going to dive into some really important propositions and measures today, but April is first going to explain some of the elected officials that will also be on the ballot. So thank you.
So there are some important offices that we should be focused on in addition to our propositions on the ballot. There are a number of elected offices that have a huge impact on the lives of our citizens and residents throughout the state of California, but in this case, we'll be talking about LA County in particular. So in terms of our offices that are up for re-election, the Board of Supervisors, and to give you an idea of the vote, of the Board of Supervisors, they are elected in their respective districts. They are elected to serve 3 4-year terms. Their role typically is 3-pronged: legislative, executive, and administrative. They're responsible for setting policies, enacting ordinances, and adopting resolutions. The Board of Supervisors is enormously powerful. They control a $35 billion budget and represent 88 incorporated cities that represent 10 million residents. So when we're talking about the Board of Supervisors, we should be very clear that the role of the supervisors spans from our public health to our foster care to policies dealing with education. Our current Board of Supervisors, there's one open seat. That seat is for District number 2, which is occupied currently by Mark Ridley Thomas. Mark Ridley Thomas also serves as the chair of that committee. Mark Ridley Thomas has served in this capacity for a year, as this is a rotating position. The seat in District 2 is being challenged by a number of candidates, particularly 2 that are higher profile. Right now, that would be former City Council member Herb Wesson, as well as Holly Mitchell in the California State Senate. So these are races that you certainly want to watch and certainly want to be mindful of. We aren't going to talk too much about the Supreme Court today, especially since the Superior Court judges are really on the ballot this upcoming election season. We do know that the Supreme Court is certainly the highest court of the land, but in terms of the election, the Superior Courts really are the folks that sort of serve as trial and jury for a number of cases throughout our county. These judges serve 6-year terms. They're elected by the people. And it is important that as you go to the ballots, that you also consider doing your research behind the Superior Court judges, because they do make substantial and really influential decisions on how folks are prosecuted. So our next office is the district attorney. The district attorney's office is sort of higher profile right now as we are looking at a lot of social justice issues. The true job of the district attorney is to seek justice in criminal cases. This district attorney is considered the top prosecutor of our county, and this office is enormously powerful because in the United States, it's the largest local prosecutorial office that there is. This position also is elected by the people every 4 years. This is a nonpartisan district attorney, and candidates must have experience as a member of a California bar, as well as be a law school graduate. Some of the things to consider about the district attorney right now is it is a contentious race. It's a contentious circumstances because there's a lot of, like I said before, movement towards social justice. And the relationship between social justice and policing has been at the forefront of our society for the last few years now. We know that our current district attorney is Jackie Lacey. Jackie Lacey has come into the office in 2012. She's seeking a third term now. She was elected again, and now she's seeking a third term. So her seat is currently being challenged. There's one contender. There was two before, but now there's one contender challenging that seat. And we would encourage you certainly to look into the differences between those candidates. It is important to say that there is a fairly intricate relationship between the DA's office and police. And the reason why there's been a level of frustration around the DA's office as to why more social justice measures aren't being taken seriously, and that's because of the relationship between the DA's office and the police. So while we want to see quick change, those changes have to be endemic instead of sort of shallow. And there's a long history right now of how our relationship with our DA and how the police working together make that a very precarious relationship at times. So the next one is LA County Sheriff. The LA County Sheriff office is currently occupied by Alex Villanova. Excuse me, I've pronounced that wrong. He's recently elected in 2018. The Sheriff's Department in our county is considered the largest in the world. They have an enormous budget of, I believe, $3.4 billion. And that provides a lot of services in our county, especially toward patrolling services throughout the county. They provide housing and transportation of our folks going off to jail. Unfortunately, in our system today, we have about 180,000 inmates in county jails, which is a direct link to our patrolling. And you can look into finding more information about some of the factors that can consider to making our population in jail the way that it is. So just to give you also an idea, the county supervisor's budget is largely made up of both the lion's share of that budget is made out of law enforcement and out of our law enforcement budget. So keep in mind that when you are considering candidates, that you look at how the budget is allocated. So also consider the endorsements of those candidates as you consider your vote. And I believe our next office we didn't include it on this slide, but also the Office of the Assessor, which is responsible for property taxes. So again, lots of information to share. And as you consider your ballot, please keep in mind those offices that I outlined. They have a huge impact on the way our county and our government works. So thank you for listening.
Definitely. Thank you, Maya. And as you all see, there's so much information to take in, especially in dealing with the elected officials. She has given us some of the basic information that we need to be aware. We also need to continue to do our own research as we move forward. Thank you so much for that information. We look forward to seeing more and more time. So thank you. So our next guest speaker, and I'm really, really excited about this. We have Yvonne Figueroa. Yvonne, hello. How are you?
Hi, Jontil. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great. Yvonne is a community organizer for LA Voice and one of the most spirited people that I know because she is out there doing the work. She has been dedicated to promoting the people's voice in LA through faith-based organizations, and we are honored to have you here today. Thank you, Yvonne.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you all so much. So what's up, good people? First of all, I just want to thank the amazing ladies from Plan4Hope for having me on this forum. It's really an honor to be here. Like John Till said, my name is Yvonne Figueroa. I am a community organizer with LA Voice. For those who don't know, LA Voice is an interfaith, multiracial network of roughly 60 congregations across the county, leading some of the most important fights for justice and equity in the region. So towards that end, we, along with thousands of other organizations across the state, are pushing forward a racial justice agenda that centers our most marginalized communities. This includes yes on Prop 15, no on Prop 20, and yes on Measure J. I will specifically talk about Proposition 15. It's a high-profile proposition this year, and it is called the Tax on Commercial and Industrial Properties for Education and Local Government Funding Initiative. That's such a mouthful. But some of you, in short, know it as Schools and Communities First. So what will a yes vote for Prop 15 do? A yes vote supports this constitutional amendment to require commercial and industrial properties to be taxed based on their market value rather than their purchase price. So this exempts commercial agriculture, residential property, and small businesses with property value of $3 million or less. A no vote opposes this constitutional amendment, thus continuing to tax commercial and industrial properties based on a property's purchase price. So let me just break this down a little bit and a tiny bit of context. When Prop 13 passed in 1978, it allowed big companies to be capped at 1970s property tax rates. If Prop 15 passes, big companies who currently pay 1970s property taxes will have to pay property taxes at what the current value of the land is. So for example, Disney Studios in Burbank is half a mile apart from Burbank Studios on the same street. Disney Studios land is assessed at $5 per square foot. Burbank Studios land is assessed at $180 per square foot. This means that Burbank Studios is paying way more in property taxes than Disney Studios is. So what Prop 15 would do is it would level the playing field for companies and businesses who are already paying their fair share of taxes, along with homeowners, along with small businesses who are already paying their fair share of property taxes. According to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, over 40 years, California has lost $585 billion in revenue for schools and local communities since Prop 13 passed in 1978. This means right now that currently we rank 39th in the country in how much we spend per student. I'm going to just repeat that. We rank 39th in the country in how much we spend per student. So by closing these loopholes on commercial and industrial properties above $3 million, we are reclaiming $12 billion a year. We are investing in schools and communities. We're providing tax incentives for small businesses. We're protecting residential property taxes. We're leveling the playing field for businesses already paying their fair share. And we are ensuring strict accountability and transparency on how the money is being spent. So going into some of the common responses or common concerns of this, and what we're hearing is that around this prop is that homeowners will have to pay more in taxes, that small businesses will be impacted, and that Prop 15 will be passed on to consumers in higher prices. The facts are that residential properties are exempt point blank period. Point blank period. You can look at the legal language. B, that small businesses actually get a tax cut. And that C, we are already paying high prices everywhere we go. The gas station, the market, high prices in rent. And so we know that greater market forces dictate price. And so just for more information, hit up the amazing ladies at Plan4Hope Ministry, or you can contact me directly at yvonne@lavoice.org. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. And we are just excited about the work that you and your organization are doing throughout LA County to make sure that we get out the vote, but also to be aware of what a yes and what a no means and how it affects our communities. So we thank you for that. And please, please, please don't forget to visit lavoice.org, or you can also connect with their organization and to find out more information on Proposition 15 as well as others on our Plan4Hope site as well. So thank you, Yvonne. So next up, we have a guest speaker who is another awesome organizer and representative of LA Voice. His name is Pastor Eddie Anderson of McCarthy Memorial Church. There he is. Hi, Pastor Eddie, how are you?
Good morning. Good to be with you. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. Thank you so much. We're excited to hear about Measure J.
Thank you. First, I want to give honor to the pastor and First Lady Dixon of this house. Thank you for having us on. My name is Pastor Eddie, and I'm talking about Measure J. Measure J is a county-wide ballot measure, which means that if you live in the Los Angeles County, you get to vote on this measure. Where did it come from? Well, I like to start with the Bible, right? So Exodus chapter 3 talks about when Moses goes to Pharaoh and tells Pharaoh to let my people go. God tells Moses that they will tell him no, but then God will compel him by a mighty hand. And when you leave, you won't leave empty-handed. That's what Measure J is. When the people of Los Angeles, and Reimagine LA, when Justice LA, when Black Lives Matter, when ACLU came to the county and said, we can't get well in a cell. We need care, not cages. The county said, we understand you. And so they did a survey, they did a study, and they had 70 intercepts around what can we do instead of locking people up. We know that the population in LA is 8% Black, but 30% of the jail population is Black. There was something wrong with the system. And so we said, why don't we have alternative incarceration? We did the study, and then the board of supervisors said, we don't have the money. They said, we don't have the money to fund alternative incarceration. We don't have the money to fund housing and healthcare. We don't have the money to fund the jobs we need or to invest directly into the Black community. Measure J says we can have a moral imagination around what is possible, and Reimagine LA gave us a ballot initiative that said, what if we took 10% of the county's revenues? So you heard earlier that the budget is around $35 billion. And so we say take 10% of the county revenues. The revenues is a little bit less because most of the budget is already allocated towards things like making sure we have healthcare, making sure the school system has their money, making sure that the roads and things of that nature is paid. But if you take the revenues, we can access, that's about $10 billion of county revenues every single year. So what does that mean for us? 10%, or as for church people, let's say a tithe of the county budget would be between $900 million and $1.6 billion. That's the numbers we're using and fighting for with the supervisors. Supervisors wanted to go down a little bit lower and said $500 million. And what it would do is say every year in perpetuity, that money will go to fund three main things. One, alternative to incarceration. We've already done the study, and we know that there are other ways we can take care of folks who run into the legal system. It will also go towards making sure we have health programs and mental health programs, right? So a lot of times we know that the LA County Jail is the largest mental health provider in the world. You can't get well in a cell. So we said, let's fund mental health in our communities. And also let's make sure that we have the employment and social services that we need. And here that we've learned in this moment where we realize that Black Lives Matter is that we also can invest money into Black capital and Black and brown neighborhoods. And so that's what that money is going to go towards. 10% is where we're talking about. It is the floor and not the ceiling, which means that every year when they assess the budget, at minimum, it'll be 10%. Now, if the revenues are higher that year, it could be more money than 10%. You know, as the church people, that with tithes and offering, that you start at 10%, but if God bless you with more, then you can do a little bit more. The county can do the same exact thing and make sure that Black and brown lives are a priority, that we're making sure that we are funding the services that we need in our community. So you may be asking, that makes sense. So who's against Measure J? The major people who are against Measure J is the sheriff department and the district attorney office, the current district attorney's office. And you may be wondering, why are they against Measure J? Well, the measure says, if you vote for yes on Measure J, it says that the money will not go towards the carceral system. What does that mean? It would affect any county agency that is a part of incarceration, right? Which means it would affect the sheriff's budget. It may affect probation's budget. It may affect these budgets that go towards locking up our people instead of making sure they get well, and that there are alternatives, and there is a community of care, an economy of care for folks. And so that's what a yes vote on Measure J would do. It also gives the supervisors a plan, which says that if the revenues are down and we can't do 10% because it will cause us to have a strapped budget, and we all know what austerity budgets look like, especially with COVID-19 is around, it will say then they can shift how much money they give in that year. But it must be a transparent process, and it must be a process that involves the community. And so a yes on Measure J is a yes for justice. It's a yes for jobs. I like to say a yes for a year of jubilee in perpetuity for our people, to make sure that we don't just say with lip service that Black Lives Matter, say with lip service you can't get well in the cell, but we actually write a check. We make sure that people are taken care of, and we put our money where our mouth is in LA County. I hope you vote yes on Measure J, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eddie. One of the things that I really loved about what you said in talking about Measure J is imagining the possibilities that we can reach higher goals than what we have currently in our communities, but we have to have the information, and we have to get out there and vote on measures that lean towards our communities, make them better. So thank you so much for spreading information and keeping us informed. And thank you for your work at LA Voice. And yes, hopefully we can continue to connect and answer more questions and address more concerns that the community has, so we can have clarity. And we just thank you for that. We are blessed to have you. Our next guest speaker is another great member of Plan for Hope. Her name is Hazar Price, and we are so excited to have her today. Hi, Hazara.
Hi, Chantel. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad that you're here to help us with another proposition today.
Great. I'm excited. I'm excited to do the work.
Thank you.
So, as our pastor has already said, hope is an action word. So, family, let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about Proposition 25. So, Proposition 25, it replaces cash bail with risk assessments. It's a referendum on the end money bail. Back in 2018, Governor Jerry Brown signed a motion to stop this bill because we had collected enough signatures to get it on the ballot. So he, with the backing of the bail bond industry, collected signatures, and this motion was put on hold until now, when voters like you and myself will decide whether to approve this measure or not. Let me tell you a little bit about what a yes vote means. A yes vote on this measure will be giving the approval for the law to end cash money bail. A no vote on this measure will reject the law and consequently leaving our justice system or the criminal bail system in place currently as it is now. So that's really, if we're happy about the way things are going, we're going to vote no. If we're not, we want to shake it up a little bit, we would vote yes. Let me just tell you a little bit about how this motion will be assessed. Judges will, instead of posting bail like we normally do, they will judge people and put them in 3 categories. It's called risk assessment. So there will be a low category for low misdemeanor crimes. There's a middle risk assessment, and those people's past will be taken into consideration. And there's also a high risk, which those people would not be eligible for this automatic release. So just to talk a little bit about who's not eligible, so that a lot of people are afraid for their communities, and we're thinking we're just going to be opening the prison doors and letting people out. High crimes, felonies with violent intent, sexual assault, predators, stalking, all of those types of high-level crime would not be considered for automatic release. So there's nothing for us to, like the jails are not going to open and just let people out. So that's not something that we have to worry about. So those that are in favor of this measure is the Democratic Party, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, a lot of our senators and assemblymen. The people that are opposing this issue, of course, is the bail industry and the bond industry. Also, there are some folks that are opposing this measure. Actually, the NAACP is also opposed to this measure because they believe that it gives the judges too much power, and it will continue bias and racial profiling by giving all the power to the judges. So that's their position on this measure. But at the end of the day, these are all valid concerns. However, we must weigh the harm that's going to our society right now with this criminal justice system. And we need to vote with our heart. So no matter what side of the line you find yourself on, please vote. For additional information, if you could go to our Plan for Hope website, and we've got links that will give you all the information you need. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hazar. You're so awesome. I am honored to be a part of your team and a part of Plan for Hope. And I'm just excited about the work to come. And like Hazar said, if you want more information on this proposition, again, as well as others, you can go to our Plan for Hope website. So next up, we have an amazing guest speaker. It is Elder Joe Paul. Elder Joe Paul works with a reentry program, and he has so much information that he can give to us on some of the propositions. I know he will just address a couple, but we are honored to have you here today. Thank you, Elder Joe Paul.
Well, thank you, Jontil, and thank you, Jeremy and Adrian, for the invitation to support this great work. I thank you for being a frontline leader in this liberation theology we're preaching and empowering people to actually exercise their democratic rights. So thank you. I'm here to talk about a couple of propositions, one being Prop 20 and the other being Prop 17. I just wanted to actually offer a piece of correction to a presentation I was earlier presented. Currently, our daily average in the Sheriff's Department's facilities are about 13,000 people, not 100 and something thousand. That's our state prison level, which is under 100,000 as well, based on these COVID releases. I just want people to be informed of the realities. COVID has really put a lot of pressure on our institutions, and they're reacting as best they can, but it has given us an advantage where the institutions are showing that they can release people, and those people can be released safely. And then to what my brother, Pastor Eddie, was saying, that we have a humane and rehabilitative approach to receiving those individuals coming back from custody environment. So it's less than 13,000 in our county jails right now, down from about 17,000 on a daily average, just for a correction. So let's jump into this. Prop 20, it is the California proposition around criminal sentencing, parole, and DNA collection initiative. All right. The yes vote, if you were to move in that direction on this initiative, would add crimes to a list of violent felonies for which early parole is restricted, and recategorize certain types of theft or fraud crimes as wobblers. That means they're chargeable as either a misdemeanor or a felony, and then require DNA collection of certain misdemeanors. A no vote would oppose that initiative and would not add those crimes to the current list that restricts certain eligibility for parole consideration. It would not recategorize certain types of theft or fraud crimes as wobblers, and it would not require DNA collection. So just as a bit of history on this one, in 2011, we were in the throes of an overcrowding issue that had risen to the level of the federal courts, Supreme Court, that said a lawsuit on cruel and unusual punishment based on the overcrowding and lack of health care that it was creating in our state prison system brought about an urgent need for a redress to that matter. And as a result, which was passed down from Schwarzenegger to Governor Brown and his administration instituted AB 109, which was the reform of our criminal justice system, and it changed certain levels of felonies where individuals would not go to state prison, but they would end up in the county jails across the state. And so we're living in the throes of that now. Subsequently to 2011, there was 2 additional bills around criminal justice reform, which was Prop 47 and Prop 57. Prop 47 respectively addressed crimes that were charged as felonies that were resultant of the bill passing dropped to misdemeanors or, again, wobblers. And some of those have been around retail and what they call grand theft versus petty theft, certain drug crimes that were not felonies any longer. And this was basically a result of the efforts of many, many, many people across this state in the criminal justice reform era. And we're now seeing a whole new revamping of that with certain propositions such as what Pastor Eddie talked about with Measure J. But we're living in the consequence of it with certain legislature, particularly Assemblymember Jim Cooper, who initiated this bill because he felt that victims were not being considered. And so his response was to address the concerns of his constituents and the people that he was speaking with by bringing this proposition to the table. And just giving you a little bit of backdrop on some of the components of Prop 20. The wobbler issue is a problem because it leaves the discretion of either a felony or a misdemeanor in the hands of the court. And right now, African Americans are disproportionately charged and convicted of excessive crimes based on the judgment and the legislation or the judicial process in the courts. And so I don't feel comfortable, personally speaking, leaving that in the hands of a DA and then ultimately a judge, because we already are disproportionately impacted by the data in our court system. Los Angeles County sends about 30% of those who go to state prison right from our own superior courts. And the majority of those folks, as was mentioned throughout this conversation, are African Americans. This bill would put more power in the hands of the courts to determine people going to prison or jail versus alternatives. And so that's a side of it that I'm not comfortable with. It also puts in the hands of the Department of Corrections additional crimes that would preclude people from being considered for early release, which was a part of Proposition 57. And that bill has helped to relieve the overcrowding in our state prisons. It has been effective. And so at this point in time, to undermine or to add additional burdens to the parole review process for those who are monitoring those individuals who have demonstrated true rehabilitation by taking classes, by finishing high school, by taking vocational courses, or participating in life-enhancing courses such as anger management and parenting and so forth and so on. Those things have been utilized to give initiative for their participation for their early release. This bill would add certain conditions under violent and serious crimes that would preclude them from that process. And we know, again, that our individual African Americans are overcharged and over-sentenced, which would put our people in a particular place that we wouldn't be eligible for early release in spite of our efforts for rehabilitation. So again, on Proposition 20, a yes vote in support of the initiative would direct certain additional crimes to be added to a list of violent felonies that would preclude individuals from being heard for rehabilitative support or contribution to be released early from state prison. It would recategorize certain types of theft and fraud crimes as wobblers, which meant it leaves in the hand of the court whether an individual is sentenced for a misdemeanor or a felony. And then it would add DNA collection for certain theft and fraud crimes, which I don't understand how you would do that. But nevertheless, it adds that. To oppose the bill, to say no to it, you cancel out all that stuff. That's Proposition 20. I would encourage you, if you want more detail, there's a wonderful website called Ballotopia that is very layman directed to allow you to plug in the propositions that you're interested in and get a full overview, a comprehensive overview of what that means. Going to Proposition 17 now. Proposition 17 is the voting rights restoration for persons on parole, and it's an amendment to our California state constitution. And a yes vote says we support this constitutional amendment to allow people on parole for felony convictions to vote. A no vote opposes the constitutional amendment, thereby continuing to prohibit people who are on parole from voting. So I'm going to give you a couple of tidbits of information so you can draw your own conclusions to the rationale behind why we would say yes vote to this piece of legislation. California is one of 3 states that require persons convicted of felonies to complete their prison and parole sentences before regaining the right to vote. As of 2020, 19 states allow people convicted of felonies, but who are on parole, to vote. 17 of these states did not allow people to vote while in prison. Only 2 states in our country, which are Maine and Vermont, allow people who are imprisoned to vote. That means that they never take the right to vote away from an individual, regardless of their status of incarceration. That's Maine and Vermont. The remaining 28 states had additional disqualifications compared to California for people convicted of felonies. 18 disqualified people who are in prison, on parole, or on probation. 7 prohibited people convicted of certain felonies from ever regaining their right to vote. In Iowa, Kentucky, and Virginia, people convicted of felonies never regain their right to vote. What is the problem with this? I was talking to Pastor Jeremy this morning, and fundamentally, particularly on this piece of legislation, it's a federal issue. The 13th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America says that we are free as people, African Americans, from slavery or indentured servitude or the like, except when we're incarcerated. And this particular caveat within that 13th Amendment continues to allow states that have the legal right to bar and ban individuals who end up with a quote unquote felony conviction from certain rights and privileges of full citizens. If we are going to redress the totality of the civil unrest and the means behind the civil unrest, we have to address the core issues. The 13th Amendment and the caveat within it that still allows for indentured servitude or quote unquote slaveral truth, or the capacity to allow people to still be considered as slaves, that has to be removed. If we're citizens, we're citizens. And if we can address one of the core and fundamental matters that continues to perpetuate this disparity of treatment of people in this country based on the criminal justice system, then we have to look at that as a core issue. So Prop 17 is a no-brainer for me. It's a yes vote. And I want to thank you guys again for the time to participate with you.
Thank you so much, Elder Joe Paul. We also wanted to ask if you would mention your event that you have coming up. It's this upcoming Wednesday, right?
Yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me. So in light of the last presentation and bail reform, Pastor Jeremy and a host of others and myself will be meeting with Chief Probation Officer Reaver Bingham and also Ms. Felicia Cotton. They respectively oversee adult probation and juvenile probation for the County of Los Angeles. And we are working with them in address to this referendum that will be on the ballot. That was the last presentation from my sister. And we're going to present to everyone this coming Wednesday from 5 to 7, an introduction to the probation department's pretrial services, which they actually present the assessments. They conduct all of the court interviews on behalf of those incarcerated. And we want to have this public face to allow people to address the questions that they may need and understand how to access resources or any other clarifying thing that they may be exposed to if someone they love is incarcerated and on trial or pre-trial, to be able to know what their recourses are and what the resources are for those who are being assessed. Maybe they weren't allowed to come home. Maybe there's some mitigating information that can be shared. We want to make sure that everyone who's interested in this process has access to those who actually make the decisions around it. And so that'll be this coming Wednesday, the 23rd of September from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And you can find that information at the Center of Hope LA's website.
Thank you so much. I think everything that you're saying is so true, and clarity leads to understanding. And I think when our community begins to understand what is going on, the rights that they have, the resources that are available so that they can make informed decisions and take action, that's extremely important. So we thank you for all the work you're doing. And we thank you for the work you'll be doing on Wednesday. Thank you so much, Elder Joe Paul. We thank you all for tuning in and for taking the time to gain some information and to sit with us, listen to some of the propositions, the measures, the elected officials that will be on this year's upcoming ballot. What we want you to do as we move forward is don't forget. Don't forget to fill out the census. The census deadline is September 30th. Also, register to vote. The deadline for that is October 19th. Read and understand the propositions. Also, understand the offices up for election. And vote. Vote by mail, Dropbox, or in person. And also, Center of Hope will be a place to vote. So we would like for you all to do those things for us. Some of the helpful links to make sure that you continue to have information that you need and resources is our PLAN4HopeCoh.org site. Also, my2020census.gov, the sos.ca.gov/elections. There's also lavote.net. And then there's ballotpedia.org/California. And last but not least, we have lavoice.org. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, Plan4Hope is a civic engagement platform of Center of Hope. And for more information on our ministry, check us out below. Next, we will have a Zoom where you all can tune in for questions and answers with any of our available speakers from today's presentation. We thank all of our speakers for today, and we thank you all for tuning in. Be blessed.